Mic check, mic check. Mic check. All right, reset my mics. All right. Should be good now. All right. So welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin. I'm your host, Tone Vays. It is early afternoon New York time. And looking forward to my last weekend here in the woods. And after that, I will be off to Texas for BitBlack Boom. I got a couple of friends coming tomorrow for a barbecue, so I will be smoking ribs all day tomorrow, start around 9 a.m. for a nice 5 p.m. barbecue. I'll probably do a stream while I'm in the middle of smoking those bad boys. Maybe I'll somehow move the camera over to show you how that's done. Anyway, let's look at the charts. Not a good day for Bitcoin, and not a good day at all. The weekly chart has collapsed. I don't see how we're going to close above the long-term moving average. We never made it to the next moving average. As long as we were holding this 200-week moving average, Bitcoin had a good shot at going to the upside. It's hard really to explain this big drop. The stock market fell a little bit, not all that much. This whole Ethereum merge is coming up. I don't really know when the Ethereum merge is happening. I can totally see Ethereum imploding and dragging down the price of Bitcoin. If you were on Swan Spaces this morning, you heard Greg Foss explain why Bitcoin price could be just crashing because of Ethereum merge, mostly because people think that Ethereum and Bitcoin are the same. They're not. They have almost nothing in common with each other. Ethereum is a lot closer to be Amazon stock than it is to be Bitcoin, but that's my view on Ethereum. So probably a lot of traders out there that are hedging their long Ethereum trade with a short Bitcoin trade, or selling of Bitcoin while being long Ethereum. And in an environment like this, they have to sell more Bitcoin to defend their long Ethereum trades. And this could happen until the situation flips, where Ethereum crashes, Bitcoin rises. But until that happens, Bitcoin can easily fall all the way down to, 14, 13, 12, even 11,000. You see this red arrow. This was the big concern, and this concern is fully on the table. I don't really see how Bitcoin is going to go up in the very near future, unless Ethereum completely implodes and everyone rushes out of Ethereum and joins Bitcoin. Actually, that last arrow, I have no idea where that came from. Control Z. Oh, okay. So the arrow I deleted isn't coming back. That's okay. So this arrow here, I thought it would come back down to the moving average. But it looks like it might come down all the way down. It never even made it up there, but I'm going to leave this arrow as is. Had to sneeze, but at least I muted myself. Do you think is a downtrend until next halving? Not until next halving, but possibly for several months into end of year is very, very possible. Our 4-day chart, obviously, as stated many times in recent podcasts, I'm not going to cherry pick too much, but it's time to go back to a 100% cash trade. I made it very clear that once Bitcoin starts to close the daily chart below 23,000, it's over. And late last night, in the beginning of the scandal, we crashed. And while it's unfortunate that we started crashing in the beginning of the candle and we didn't just close below this number, I would have completely cut my losses. I would have given it a little bit of, breathing room. But once it fell below the actual swing low, and once it started falling below that moving average, you got to cut that trade. Let's see where the price of this was. The price of this, that's the worst case scenario. I like to use the closing prices right there at 22.7. So around 22.7, that's so I can lower this a little bit, 22.75, around that time, it is time to give up. It is time to give up on that bullish dream of Bitcoin. You're not going to give up forever on this dream, but for the foreseeable future, until the environment changes, you got to give up on that dream. The question is there a possibility of a short trade? I'm going to stay away from a short trade. Let's see what happens next candle on the 4-day chart. I don't really want to short Bitcoin right now. There's nothing good in this chart, but we're still so overextended on versus the 200-day moving average. It's just too weak. And there's still way too many Bitcoin sellers right now and not enough buyers. Look, people are very, very emotional when it comes to Bitcoin. People that don't have any, that have sold all of their Bitcoin and are praying that Bitcoin falls down to like $6,000 so they can buy it on the cheap. They think anyone being bullish in this environment is stupid. Anyone that isn't anyone that thought that Bitcoin will never go lower than these prices again is in grossly leveraged long trades, and they are very, very upset if, let's say, my views on Bitcoin become bearish. I have a very neutral view on Bitcoin. I have a very neutral emotional view on Bitcoin. So, I would like for Bitcoin to go up, obviously. My businesses would do a lot better. But I'm telling you what I see in the charts. If you are unhappy with what I'm telling you that I see in the charts, no one is forcing you to watch this show like the movie Clockwork Orange, right? There are 1,000 other YouTube channels to watch. So my view on Bitcoin right now is you should not be in any short-term bullish trades. If you are dollar cost averaging and you're saving for, your kids' college education, you can continue to do so, because I think Bitcoin is the best and safest asset in the world. There's no asset safer than Bitcoin because it is the only unconfiscatable asset in human history. But right now, for whatever reason, and the reason is irrelevant, for whatever reason, this giant bearish candle is taking me out of all short-term bullish trades. That's it, period, the end. Okay, am I in a position to short Bitcoin and make more Bitcoin from its downside? I'm not, because I don't think this is a good environment to short. I think the bear market has lasted for so long that it needs to recover soon. Also, I think we talked about on that weekly chart of Bitcoin, I think, or some other, maybe it was another stock. It would be nice for the current MRI buy candle to make the ultimate low, but that means Bitcoin has to crash in the next 10 days, all the way down to below 17,500. And I was giving the probability of 7,500, maybe 35%, even yesterday or the day before, and the probability of going below 17,500 has just gone up a lot. I think there is a 45% chance we're going to go below 17,500. And guess what? If the price of Bitcoin goes to 20,000, I'm going to raise the probability of going below 17.5 to 55%. So over 50%. But nothing is ever 100%. You're always going to see massive drops in Bitcoin because you're also going to see massive FOMO and huge price rises in Bitcoin as well. All right, before I go on to the short-term chart, I want to remind everyone about the financial summit in Bali. The financial summit in Bali will be November 1 to 6. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on YouTube, where we're about to post a lot more videos. You can also follow my calendar to see where I'm going. I am going to Texas next week for BitBlock Boom. From there, I will. I don't have my flights yet, so until I have my flights, I don't put where I'm going. So that means I don't have flights to these places yet. I will be heading to Panama. I will be there on the 24th for sure. Probably be there most of the month. And then I'm off to Turkey for Traffic Summit. And after Turkey, again, flights aren't booked. I'm looking at Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. But other than that, and a lot of this stuff still depends on the situation between Russia and Ukraine. Not really the time to go political on a day like this, like Bitcoin. Maybe I'll comment briefly later. You can follow us on Twitter as well. And if you're not able to make it to BitBlock Boom, but you're in Europe, check out Surfing Bitcoin in the south of France, which is an event I was supposed to go to, but I'm not going to make it out to the EU until, well, actually, I'm not going to the EU. I'm going to skip the EU. I am trying to stay away from the EU as much as possible. I don't want to support I don't like EU's politics. So I don't really want to support it. I'd rather go to Kazakhstan. I'd rather go to Uzbekistan. I mean, I don't agree with everything Turkey does either, but I think Turkey is a lot more rational than Europe is, collectively. The European government is a lot more irrational than the Turkish government. I just don't like to support outright stupid. So I'm gonna keep my support. Like I always find it funny when I see people. Anytime I see a Twitter account, and I can find a random Twitter account. Anytime I see a random Twitter account that says likes and retweets are not endorsements, that person is a liar. Likes and retweets are endorsements. I don't care what your Twitter profile says. Likes and retweets are endorsements. That's it. It's that simple, right? If I retweet something, I am endorsing it. Okay. I retweeted the green candles spaces. I'm endorsing. I retweeted Kyle. I'm endorsing. Retweeted John Devine. I'm endorsing. Okay. Tweets are endorsements. Well, like it's irrelevant what your profile says. Like I can say in my profile I'm a dog, but I'm not a dog. I'm a person, right? Like it's so when I travel to a place, I'm supporting that place with my money, as a tourist. I'm supporting that place with my money. And when I go to Europe, I'm supporting Europe. There's certain countries I don't want to go to because I don't want to support those countries. And yes, I go to the UAE, and yes, I go to Dubai, and yes, I support Dubai. But there are other countries that I don't want to support. Most nations in Europe, I don't want to support with my dollars. Until they change some of their tyrannical, socialist, borderline communist policies. And then I'll be more interested in supporting them. So I'm trying to keep my presence in the EU to a minimum. I'm not going to be able to avoid Europe forever. I do have to go there every now and then. So here's the hourly chart of Bitcoin. You can see how the Bitcoin crash started with this red star candle and ended right there on the MRI buy. So if you were trading short term using the MRI, the chart of Bitcoin, the MRI was very, very useful to you. And you can see how this is what I call the acceleration line. The moment that acceleration line was broken, down Bitcoin went. Premium is the discount is so low that it's not really going to budge. But once Bitcoin FOMO sets in, that should change. Oil. This is our daily view of oil. Let's go back to our weekly view of oil. I remain bullish on oil. Remain bullish on oil here. Gold, not really interesting. The correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P, again, something I've been saying for a while now. When Bitcoin started going down, it kind of pre-shadowed what is to happen with the S&P. However, the S&P has very strong support at the prior swing high right here at $4,180. So yes, Bitcoin could fall to new lows while the S&P only falls to its prior swing high. Remember, the S&P is falling down to the June high. The June high in Bitcoin is over here. Either one, doesn't really matter. That's May, so technically right here, June. So while the S&P is pulling back to what in Bitcoin is 31,000, the Bitcoin might actually go and make new lows. The correlation is certainly there, but Bitcoin has a very high beta, and Bitcoin seems to lead the S&P. This big crash in Bitcoin last night foreshadowed a drop in the S&P. So just keep that in mind. My thoughts on the Inflation Reduction Act. I think it's going to create more inflation. It's also going to destroy the middle class. It's going to destroy small businesses. It's going to destroy the LLC structure of businesses because the 87,000 new armed and ready to kill IRS agents are only there to micromanage and destroy small businesses. There's no other reason to create 87,000 new IRS agents. Like, there is no other reason to do so, because tax filings are done electronically. So you can write a bot, you can hire like 5 developers to check on returns. They're all digital, they're all electronic. So why do you need 87,000 armed agents? The only reason to do so is to show up and do undercover work at small businesses, at LLCs, at even virtual like businesses, right? Like, they're still LLCs. That's the only reason for these people to exist. If they're not doing undercover work on small companies, and they're not going to do it to big companies, because big companies have lawyers and accountants and they work directly with the IRS. I took a look at some Fibonacci's. I did a podcast the other day. It was over Telegram. I took a look at some Fibonacci levels, and I think we're just broken. So if we look at the low, oh, that's not Fibonacci. If we look at the low and we go to the high, we just broke a very critical Fibonacci level at 22,300. And the only Fibonacci level that's left that's relevant is 20,500. And I find it to be less supportive of the price than 22.3 would have been. So that is your last Fibonacci level before shit really hits the fan. Yeah, no. This is a destruction. I mean, every single law that has passed in the last 2 years, starting with Trump agreeing to lock down the country, every single executive order since the beginning of 2020. So 2.5 years. Every single executive order in the last 2.5 years has literally been nails in the destruction of the country formerly known as the United States, because it's not going to be united for long. Russia benefiting from their oil and gas, but once the EU dependence breaks over the next few years, why would the EU dependence break? And renewables continue to grow. I mean, good luck with that. Russia long-term not looking good. Good luck with that. I mean, there's only so many trees you can cut down before there's no trees left. Just ask, the former inhabitants of Easter Island, what happens when you cut down every tree? I mean, which country was it that just cut down 11 million trees? Was it Scotland or Ireland? I think it was Ireland. Ireland or Scotland? Where was that headline? Huh. The headline is hard to find. There's a YouTube video about it. Let me see news articles. Yeah, they really keep this out of the news. Yeah, Ireland cut down 11 million trees to make room for wind turbines. Yeah, that's smart. Good luck with that. Europe is about to have other problems. Have you guys been paying attention to what's going on over here? Have you guys paid attention to the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant? Where is it on the map of Ukraine? So, hold on. Right. So there is a nuclear power plant over here. I think it's right there. I think it's over here. There's a nuclear power plant right here. And Russia has taken over this territory. And the genius plan from the Ukrainians and the British and the United States is to try and blow up this nuclear power plant without anyone in any of these countries knowing that wind blows from east to west. So when they blow up this nuclear power plant, all the radiation is going to go west, killing the Ukrainians, of course, and then the Polish, and eventually making its way to Germany. This is the genius people that are in charge of, the current situation. Then there is another nuclear power plant the Ukrainians are trying to blow up inside Russia over here. And once again, because the wind blows from east to west, well, this one will kill a lot of Belarusians as well, or Belarusians, who won't be happy, and they'll probably nuke somebody over it. But other than that, it's also going to kill a lot of Ukrainians and Polish and German. But good luck with that plan. There's very few Russians you will kill, but you're gonna, yeah. So my bullishness for Europe and them, coming up with a genius plan to rid themselves of Russian energy, considering their current plan is to blow up nuclear power plants with wind, taking all the radiation towards themselves, is very, let's just say my level of their knowledge of doing anything scientific is very low. Not in this part of the world. In this part of the world, radiation will blow this way. Same thing that happened with Chernobyl. With Chernobyl, the problem was radiation was going to go west towards Europe. Same thing. Radiation is going to move from left to here. Like you can look at again, go look at what happened with Chernobyl. Like when the Chernobyl incident happened, it was over here in Belarus. Chernobyl is right here. It was up here to the west of Belarus where they first realized like that weren't like there. No, they actually are that stupid. No, they are that stupid. It's I have lost all hope for humans. They actually are that stupid. The Ukrainians are attacking 2 nuclear power plants right now in Russia. Well, one in Russia, one in still technically in Ukraine, but eventually will be Russia. Like even I mean, the Russians are telling them which way the radiation is going to go if you blow this up, and they can. And instead of fact checking what the Russian projections are of who's going to die if this nuclear power plant is destroyed, and saying no, that's false. It's all steam ahead. Let's blow up the nuclear power plant. Yeah, so that's one stupid thing I was reading up on this week. The other one is the UK is flying spy planes in Russian territory over here. That's a genius move. That's by the crown over there. That's not gonna go well if this war escalates. I think Russian TV already showed an example that they have a tactical nuke that can reach London. So that's not smart, flying your spy planes in Russian territory. That's a genius move. And then there was like a third genius move in this conflict. Remember what the third genius move in this conflict was. Oh, okay. So the third genius move was many of the Ukrainians are planting a lot of mines all around their towns to prevent Russian advancement. But they're planting mines that have been deemed illegal by the International Council because they're metal that blow up when you try to search for them with a metal detector. So these are mines that will be there forever. They are almost impossible to demine because like Vietnam still has a few of those, right? You go and walk around some of the rural parts of Vietnam and you could actually blow up because or maybe these mines came after Vietnam, but these mines are deemed illegal even in wartime because even a metal detector can't save you from the mine. You can't identify them with a metal detector. And apparently, there's lots of these mines that have been planted. So, I mean, that's just going to kill a lot of civilians in the future, because if you can't demine them after the conflict's over, no matter which way the conflict ends, that's not a good thing. So, so those are the three current genius moves in this effort. Well, wait, is there a denial that a nuclear power plant in the border of Ukraine, currently controlled by Russia, is being attacked? I mean, are the Russians attacking it? Like, what's the point of contention here? I'm just curious. Like, what did I say that was? Is someone denying that there are attacks on a nuclear power plant? No, I'm curious in the live chat. Am I wrong for saying am I making up the fact that a nuclear power plant is being shelled? Am I wrong in saying that the Russians are shelling their own, the Russians are shelling the Ukrainian nuclear power plant in an area that they now control? Well, like where's the point of contention? Like, is the live chat saying that it's a good thing that a nuclear power plant is being attacked, because if the nuclear power plant is destroyed, the nuclear energy would go where? The nuclear energy would go and kill Russians over here, and somehow not killing all the Ukrainians that are still living in the Russian-controlled territory? Like, I'm really curious what the point of contention is with my statement. Like, why is the live chat being silent right now? Like, what is the look? You can argue with me over the wind and which way the radiation is going to go, but again, unless the wind and radiation somehow skips over this entire Ukrainian territory, which is still Ukrainian territory, right? Like, Crimea is Russia now, but DPR is technically still Ukrainian territory, though they believe they should be independent. And they'll probably join Russia eventually, right? But for the time being, everything in red, except Crimea, is Ukrainian territory, occupied by both Russians and Ukrainians. So even if you do destroy this power plant, you're going to kill more Ukrainians than you will Russians. So, I mean, is anyone in the live chat thinks this is a good thing? Is this going to help Ukraine win? Like, what is the point of contention? What am I missing? All right, so we're going to leave it here then. See, this is why I am generally against, on a scale of like, I lean against nuclear energy in general. I understand that it's a cheap source of energy. I understand that it's a fairly clean source of energy. But the reason I lean against having nuclear power and nuclear energy is because I find the human race too dumb and too incompetent not to destroy the planet by having too many nuclear reactors on it. And this is a perfect example as to why I have generally been against nuclear energy, because in a situation like this, in time of war, a country is targeting a nuclear power plant on their own soil just because they're losing. And this is why I am generally against nuclear power plants. So it's a combination of two things, right? One, nuclear power plants being used in for targeted military attacks. That's one thing, because while the world was somewhat peaceful for the last 30 years, other than America blowing up the Middle East, the world is not going to be as peaceful going forward, and this is just the start of it. And the other thing is the stupidity of the people in charge of the nuclear programs. Like, if a nuclear power plant was going to be built in California, for example, the idiots would probably build it right on top of the San Andreas Fault. Like, some geologists would actually go out there and tell them, okay, geologically, the most dangerous places you could possibly build a nuclear power plant. And then some idiot would say, I want to build it right there because I like how it will look in the background for future pictures and selfies. This is kind of how I see the people in charge of a lot of these programs. Okay, so Valeris says, Tone, you're right about the wind, but it is Russia who would benefit from it. Nope, they will not. They would not benefit from it. Ukrainians are not stupid to do so. Nope, I disagree with that latter statement as well. Russia would not benefit from blowing up a nuclear power plant in an area that they already control. And if they wanted to, they control the nuclear power plant. They can just do it. They would not benefit at all. It would be if it was proven that Russians did it, it's going to be blamed on the Russians no matter what. But if Russians did do it, it would not benefit them at all. It would make the entire world hate them, which is something they're like. I mean, they're trying to avoid as best they can. They're not doing a good job of it, but they're trying. It would not do good for their relations with China. It would not do good with their relations with India. Look, countries like China, countries like India, countries like Iran. Well, Iran is a special case, but countries like China and India, especially India. Why would India work with Russia if Russia is blatantly out there killing European civilians? That won't happen. No, Russia does not benefit at all. Nuclear is the only way humans will be able to produce enough energy for future requirements. I agree. I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean, I agree with that statement. But at the same time, I think humans are currently too irresponsible to manage nuclear power plants. Yeah, it's hard to maintain and safely store nuclear waste. I'm not an expert on nuclear energy, but I am looking at the pro-Ukrainian map. I agree. I don't actually have access to the pro-Russian maps. I don't know where to find them. Now, this is a very pro-Ukrainian map. But even on a very like on a pro-Russian map, a lot more area has been taken over by Russia. I'm favoring Ukraine here by looking at the pro-Ukrainian map. look, I agree. Nuclear energy is efficient. It's cheap. If it could be properly maintained, it's clean. But the properly maintained part is a big question mark because humans aren't responsible enough to properly maintain nuclear power plants. We've seen it time and time again. And we're going to see more and more of it. You know, if Russia goes to war with China, sorry, Russia goes to war, if the US goes to war with China, if the, you know, if the situation between, you know, Kosovo and Serbia implodes some more, though that one's not a very big one. You know, Turkey and Syria are having their issues, as always. Garf, I agree with you. I didn't study nuclear. You did. I mean, I have my geology degree. Not enough scientific literacy worldwide for nuclear power. I agree. I agree. I mean, I'm surprised the head of the United States nuclear. Oh wait, they did just hire the head of the like one of the heads of nuclear programs because of the gender and like you know social because of his social status, not because of his qualifications on nuclear energy. So it's yeah. I mean the person in charge of your nuclear power plant closest to your house could be someone that got hired because they fit a certain gender checkbox or a certain non-descriptive gender checkbox. Well, like this is the problem. The problem is that qualifications matter less and perception matters more. So that's why I'm not a fan of. And the most dangerous type of energy is pretty much nuclear. Not that I think mining oil in the middle of the ocean is safe, but you got to pick your poisons here. What are the chances of Russia attacking Finland? Very small. How can they allow a nuclear state on their border? They won't allow that, but there's no need to attack that yet. So, unlike many people, I respect the Russian military and I respect the Russian intelligence, probably more so than I respect the American military and American intelligence based on what happened in Afghanistan, and based on what's happening in Ukraine right now too. So they won't let it, but Russia has bigger problems than Finland. Russia's problems are Ukraine and Lithuania. I'm not sure what the latest in Lithuania is. So they're not going to bother with Finland until they resolve Ukraine and they resolve the Baltics right here. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. So until these things are resolved, Finland is a non-issue for now. Finland also has no people. There's like what, less than 1 million people in Finland. I have no idea what the population of Finland is. It's irrelevant, basically. Population of Finland. $5.5 million. Do you think NATO would withdraw from Kosovo and Bosnia? No, God, no. Of course not. Why? Well, NATO wouldn't withdraw from anywhere, right? Like NATO's job is to expand NATO, right? Remember, NATO is not a country. NATO is an organization. As an organization, it's like a virus. A government organization is like a virus. It never shrinks. It only spreads. It's like bacteria. Like a government organization will only spread and generally cause more harm until something stops it from spreading. So NATO is an organization, just like a virus, that spreads. It doesn't retract. So, well, but Afghanistan was never a NATO country. NATO was in Afghanistan. There was troops in Afghanistan, right? So, for example, NATO could be kicked out of Estonia by the Estonian government, which if I was the Estonian government, I would seriously consider doing. So NATO itself would never retreat. I mean, they clearly left Afghanistan preparing for Ukraine. Can't fight two wars at the same time. Hitler learned it the hard way, right? Like trying to fight Russia in Russia and then trying to fight Europe. So NATO ain't withdrawing from Europe unless a country kicks them out. Was NATO in Afghanistan? I think it was just the US. I'm not sure NATO was. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm Googling this. They were in 2000. NATO was there 2001 to 2014, but I'm not sure if they were still there when the US, took their troops out. Let's see how Bitcoin's doing. Well, Bitcoin's still rebounding off the MRI buy. So we've watched a 1 to 4 candle correction to the upside, and then we will reevaluate the situation. I don't think, is Hungary a NATO country? It is, right? Hold on. Map of NATO. But like a recent article. Yeah, it is. Look at that. So here. Oh man, it's hard to zoom in on that. So look, Bosnia, so those countries aren't there. This could also be an old map. Probably Google this. Latest NATO map. I want to put it with like countries' names on them. Here we go. There we go. Original NATO members, Soviet Union, Warsaw. This is not, it's so hard to Google for shit, Not what I needed. Want to like the latest map with actual countries' names on them. There we go. And how old is this? Sure. Okay, good. January 8th, 2022. Let's go. I can't read it, of course, because there are paywalls. Perfect. Beautiful. Excellent. That's useful. We can look at it here. So there it is, Hungary. Hungary could break rank, but it's so hard for Hungary to break rank because they don't border Russia. I think Turkey will break rank first. I think Turkey will be the first country to, well, they're the most likely country. It could be Hungary. I mean, Serbia is not in NATO, so it wouldn't be Serbia. So it's either Hungary, Turkey, or the Baltics, because Russia could take them over, basically. So it's those are my candidates. Hungary, Turkey, or like Estonia. Estonia or Latvia. Look, NATO can only do one of two things. NATO can either increase the security of your country or it endangers the security of your country. NATO in Ukraine clearly endangered the security of their country. It didn't increase the security of their country. This is verifiably provable as fact because NATO's presence in Ukraine led to Russians invading Ukraine and killing Ukrainians. So NATO either increases your security or it decreases it by creating a war where your people die. So in Ukraine, NATO clearly, in hindsight, lowered the security of their country because had Ukraine stayed on good relations with Russia, bloodshed could have been avoided. And same thing in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Finland. Let's look at Finland as an example. Finland had a very good relationship with Russia. Finland has just added NATO into their border. Would it increase or decrease the security of Finland or Finnish people? I am going to lean towards adding NATO to Finland decreases the security of Finland because it increases the probability of an armed conflict with Russia leading to the death of Finns. It could also lead to the death of Russians, but it will lead to the death of Finns if the military conflict escalates. And Finland inviting NATO escalates the military conflict between Finland and Russia. So how can anyone sit there and say Finland inviting NATO has just increased Finland's security? It did not, because it increased the probability of armed conflict and death. So how is NATO increasing your security if you increase the probability of a war? Again, I'm happy to listen to your comments to where I am wrong in this logical reasoning. So in the case of Lithuania, by them being aggressive towards Kaliningrad, which is Russia, they increase the probability of an armed confrontation with Russia. And Lithuania has the balls to do this because they are a NATO member. And they're assuming, without any proof or evidence whatsoever, that if there is an armed conflict between Russia and Lithuania, that every single American is going to suddenly, swim across the Atlantic, because obviously, like if they get there anywhere else, there's any other way, they're destroying the environment. Every single American and every single Brit and every single German will suddenly come to the defense of Lithuania against the bad Ruskies. It's an assumption. It's an assumption that Lithuania is making. It could be true, but it may not be true. But having NATO inside Lithuania is giving them the cojones to stand up to Russia. So is NATO increasing the security of Lithuania, or is it decreasing the security of Lithuania? Because if there is an armed conflict between Russia and Lithuania, that assumption that everyone's going to come and help Lithuania is, I believe, is misguided. So we can look at Hungary. Is Hungary having NATO increasing their security or decreasing their security? Hungary wants to maintain an economic relationship with Russia. And in the meantime, if there is an armed conflict between, say, Russia and Lithuania, and NATO demands that Hungarians be sent to Lithuania to fight Russia, and trust me, NATO will demand every Hungarian go there and fight Russia because they want to create bigger tensions between Hungary and Russia, right? So if there are any troops that are being sent first to defend NATO, it's going to be the Turkish and the Hungarians, because that's the relationship that the West would try to ruin, because Turkey and Hungary still maintain good relations with Russia. So, of course, these troops are going to be called up in order for Russia to be angry at Turkey and angry at Hungary. So, again, how is NATO benefiting the security of Hungary? Is it increasing the security of Hungary as a nation, or is it decreasing the security of Hungary as a nation? And that is what, the government of Hungary needs to decide, whether they want to remain a NATO country or not. Again, feel free to comment in the live chat right now where my logic is completely, batshit crazy. What do I make of the video of the Prime Minister of Finland partying? I haven't seen the video. I'm hearing about it for the first time. I don't really care what Finland does. I don't think Russia cares all that much either. But they feel disrespected from what Finland did. So, eventually it's going to be a problem. Lonely Hunter, you ask, a silly question. Who attacked? Did Ukraine attack Russia, or did Russia attack Ukraine? Well, obviously, Russia attacked Ukraine. Who attacked? Did I attack a German Shepherd, or did the German Shepherd attack me? Well, why on earth would I attack a German Shepherd, right? Or a pit bull. Like, if a pit bull bites someone, who attacked? Did the person attack a pit bull, or did the pit bull attack the person? Obviously, the pit bull attacked the person. I don't think I've ever met anyone that attacks a wolf, for example, right? Or a pit bull. It's a dog that could do a lot of damage. But the question that every single Ukrainian and most people in the West never ever ask is, did that person do anything to, bait that pit bull into attacking them, right? It's one thing if my attack dog attacks you and hurts you or kills you, yes, the dog did the damage. But what did you do? Did you do anything to provoke the attack, or did you do nothing to provoke the attack? If you did nothing to provoke the attack, then obviously the dog needs to be put down. But if you did something to provoke the attack, then maybe that dog doesn't need to be put down, and the dog did what it was trained to do. And there is a very large variation there. I'm going to cut camera for a second, right? So you do nothing to get attacked by a guard dog. You do something so bad that the dog was in every right to attack you. And then there was a giant list of shit in between. Now, as a person paying attention to the Russia-Ukraine military conflict, where on the spectrum is Ukraine? Is Ukraine an innocent nun walking down the street that got attacked and killed by a guard dog? Or, is it someone that started smacking the guard dog in the face, and then the guard dog, attacked them and killed them? So I have a view on this. You have a view on this. Every person has their own view on this. My view is probably a little bit closer to smacking the dog in the face. Your view, if you are the person that asked, anyone that asked the question, who attacked first, right? Your view is probably Ukraine is a innocent nun walking down the street. And my view is it's a little bit closer to this side. This is the part that needs to be discussed, right? There's no need to discuss who crossed whose border first and started killing. That's obvious. I have no idea if Saudis are buying Russian oil. I think most countries are buying Russian oil and selling it at a premium to the West. Why not? It's a very good business model. India's doing it. Saudis are probably doing it. Hey, let's buy cheap Russian oil, and then we're gonna refine it, and then we're gonna sell it to the Germans. Again, we can go back to the attack dog example. Obviously, the attack dog either permanently damaged or killed someone. So obviously, the attack dog is at fault at killing them. But what led up to that attack? And what led up to the attack determines whether that guard dog should be put down and killed, or if that guard dog was actually doing their job and should be rewarded. Now, I'm not saying in this case Russia should be rewarded. That's the ultimate extreme scenario. But the truth is somewhere in the middle. I mean, the only reason someone has a guard dog in their house or an attack dog in their house is in case somebody, does something bad to you and your guard dog attacks. No point of having one. NATO expansion is probably the #1 reason for the current situation. It's not the only reason, but it's my view is 60% of the reason why the Russia-Ukraine situation is happening is because of NATO. I can train my guard dog as best I could. And at this point, don't give my dog a reason to attack and you'll be safe. I think the China-Taiwan situation is a lot more complicated than, I mean, China, US, Taiwan is a lot more complicated than uh, Russia, Ukraine, US situation. Well, yeah, obviously Russia is the guard dog in this situation. Uh, I, Ukraine's not the guard dog. Now, again, if the guard dog attacked for no reason whatsoever, the guard dog needs to be put down. But if the guard dog had a reason to attack, that reason needs to be discussed before deciding whether that dog needs to be put down. Do you think Russia will play peacemaker between China and India? Not right now. Not as long as Russia is in the middle of a conflict with the West. But if Russia is able to resolve the conflict with Ukraine and the West, that's a very big if, by the way. It's very unlikely. Huge if. I probably should have been talking about this tomorrow when I'm like really meat, because I got a lot of shit to do today. Let's leave this conversation for tomorrow. We can talk more politics tomorrow. Russia can't play peacemaker right now. They're not exactly at peace. OTC. Again, why is everything black and white to you people? So are you saying Russia needs to be put down or pat on the head? No, what I'm saying is there's a giant arm long of things in between those two ends. Nothing is black and white. What I'm saying is neither of those two scenarios. My opinion of Putin's irrelevant. I think that if Putin is replaced by a different leader, they're going to be a lot more aggressive towards Ukraine. So you can try to take Putin down all you like, but I think it would be worse for the Ukrainian people if Putin is replaced. That's my opinion. This channel will eventually be a political channel because I'm going to move all my finance to the Financial Summit channel. So there'll be zero politics on a Financial Summit channel, and this will probably be a political channel. Yeah, hopefully India and China will resolve their own issues. Guys, I'm not denying that Russians are killing Ukrainians, and they're winning, and they're killing more Ukrainians. I'm not in denial about it. I don't understand your question. This could have and should have been avoided. And it would have been very easy to avoid, but no one was interested in avoiding it. Like, again, going back to the idea of trying to blow up a nuclear power plant, doing so will kill more Ukrainians than Russians. So I don't understand why the Ukrainians are trying to do that. Again, maybe I'm missing something. I talked to a lot of people out of holding $10 ETH. I am Ukrainian, actually. I'm half Ukrainian. I don't speak Ukrainian, I speak Russian, but I am half Ukrainian because back then, almost nobody spoke Ukrainian, everyone spoke Russian. I used to go to Ukraine all the time. I spent, I've only been to Russia twice, maybe 3 times. I've been to Ukraine like a dozen times. I used to go to Ukraine. I used to go to Ukraine 3 times a year. Between like 2016 and 2020, before COVID hit, I used to go to Ukraine all the time. Helped a few friends get out of Ukraine when the conflict started. I don't want India to pick a side. I want India to stay neutral. I don't want India picking any sides. I think India picking a side is a mistake. No, I'd say Russian and Ukrainian is more like Portuguese and Spanish. Lots of similarities, different words. Like, I don't understand how I could possibly repeat what's happening on Russian TV because I don't watch Russian TV. So I don't understand how that's possible. Like, how could I be repeating what Russian TV says if I haven't watched Russian TV probably in 20 years? So I don't see how that's possible. Like, I know you think I'm, secretly spending all day watching Russian TV and then I'm repeating what I hear there, but it's not. So these are my own personal opinions, completely independent of what is said on Russian TV. Like, has nothing. I don't watch Russian TV at all. I keep an eye on this map. I keep an eye on what's going on. I keep an eye on the progress of what's happening, and I generally keep an eye on global politics. And I don't have access to Russian TV. I don't watch Russian TV. I don't talk to people in Russian. I talk to a lot more people in Ukraine than I talk to people in Russia. So if my views happen to match Russian TV, you should think about that because my views are completely independent. Do I watch them pull? No, I don't watch anybody, guys. I really don't have time to watch people. I don't watch Joe Rogan. I don't watch them pull. I keep an eye on their tweets, but I don't watch their shows. I don't have time for that. Anyone from West Ukraine is going to speak both Russian and Ukrainian. People in East Ukraine will 100% speak Russian. They may or may not speak Ukrainian. Because if you're living in East Ukraine, there's really no need for you to know Ukrainian. Like, you don't have to. It doesn't, that doesn't change your way of life. I did watch a lot of John Mearsheimer's videos on Russia, Ukraine, most of which took place before over a year ago, before the conflict. No, I watched them after the conflict started, but the videos were dated pre that, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about this conflict by watching his videos, because he was right. Because he was right. My ability to read Russian is very poor, so that's why it takes me forever. If you ask me who do I blame the most for the Russia-Ukraine conflict, it's not going to be Russia, it's going to be the United States, which is where I am right now. Do I think Russia will win? Yeah, 100%. 100%. They will win. They will win the war against Ukraine, right? Because they can't lose. If you can't lose, the only outcome is to win, because if they're losing, they will start sending nukes. So absolutely they will win. They explain what a Russian loss looks like. Like, how is Russia going to lose? Like, how is that possible? They're a heavily militarized, armed, giant nation. They see this as a threat to their existence. Like, there's, like, how is it possible for them to lose? And if you can't lose, then the outcome is you win. Like, again, unless there's technology I'm unaware of that can wipe Russia off the face of the earth completely, like that area becomes the ocean. Like, explain to me how Russia can lose it. Because look, the only way Russia will start losing is if the West starts helping. So that means the UK sends troops, the United States sends troops, Europe doesn't have that many troops, but Poland sends troops, Germany sends troops. I don't see what other country would send troops, right? Like, who else would send troops? Like 3 Canadians? Who else would send troops, right? And if the UK sends in ground troops, then that's a war between the UK and Russia. And Russia has the military capability of nuking London. If the United States sends troops, Russia does not have the capability of doing to the US what they can do to London. But again, Russia's got submarines. They'll fight it out with the Americans for a while just to see if they can beat them. But if the Americans are actually beating Russians, and American troops are, stepping on Russian soil, like Germans did in the 40s, then all bets are off. Then, all the submarines off the shore of the United States, with all those nukes, are suddenly on high alert. Well, explain to me how, in what world does Russia lose this? And what does that look like? Again, all these NATO countries, Poland, Lithuania, they're all itching to go to war with a giant bully that can easily destroy them, because they think there is a bigger bully, standing behind them, ready to help them. And that bigger bully being the United States. If that bigger bully doesn't come and help, or if that bigger bully has its own problems, like America splitting into 2 or 3 countries, how exactly is Poland going to fight Russia? When am I going to find a woman to get married? Yeah, my mom keeps asking me the same thing. Anyway, we can talk more about this tomorrow. No, they can't be detected. Did you not pay attention to the hypersonic missile that Russia used to destroy a base in West Ukraine? Did you not pay attention to that hypersonic missile? That hypersonic missile was not detected, and it's almost impossible to detect it. It flies too fast, it flies too low to the ground. That hypersonic missile could be a tactical nuke. So no, it's you really need to brush up on what's going on with the 2 militaries. Forget nukes. They can't be discarded. They can be discarded. Russia can't use them on non-nuclear country. In what world do you live in, Valerius? In what world do you live? Do you live in? It's kind of like saying, like who's behind me, right? It's kind of like saying, Tone, you can't step past the gravel onto the leaves behind me. That's literally what you just said. And my answer to you will be, why can't I step onto the leaves from the gravel? And your answer is, because you promised 100 years ago not to do it. Like, it's such a stupid statement. It's such a stupid statement to speak in absolute terms on something that someone that is probably already dead said they will do. Now, of course, it is unlikely that Russia would do that to a non-nuclear nation. It's unlikely, but what exactly prevents them from doing it? Look, I have no idea what NATO did or didn't promise. Like, NATO did expand these. Like, whether they promised they wouldn't or would, they expanded it, and that pissed Russia off. I mean, I love how people view statements as some kind of blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain immutability. Like here's what I'm certain about. I'm certain that a Bitcoin transaction from last year ain't changing. Other than that, well, I'm also pretty certain the sun's going to rise tomorrow, and I'm pretty certain the light from the sun will take about 8 minutes to hit Earth. Well, like there are things I'm pretty certain about. But putting that kind of certainty on countries in the middle of a war is just stupid. It's outright stupid. You should watch Jordan Peterson. Yeah, Jordan Peterson's pretty good. I've seen a little bit. I've seen 1 or 2 interviews of his. All right, guys, I need to call it a day. I gotta get to work. Didn't mean for this to go that long. But... putting blame on things is just silly. It's where we are, what led to the situation, where we are today, and how do we fix it? And no one is interested in asking those 3 questions. No one is interested in really finding the root cause of what caused the conflict. No one is interested in saying the truth about how the conflict is going. Everyone is just lying. And no one is interested in resolving it peacefully. So it's only going to get worse. That's all I can promise you. Well, Valerius, hey, I hope you're right, but all I see so far is this Western-leaning map having more and more red on it than it did a month earlier, and a month before that, and a month before that. On a daily basis, it could fluctuate a little bit, but when a month is over, when August ends, there will be more red territory than there were white. And when next month ends, there will be more red territory than there is white. So, and this map leans in favor of Ukraine. That I was, no, I'm not on screen share right now. I had these debates months ago. People were very upset at me. Okay, where's my Zoom thing? I actually don't know where my Zoom window is. I disappeared. Oh, there it is. Here. I'll do one last screen share. You know, I was in Istanbul. 2 minutes. I was in Istanbul. I was hanging out with a lot of Ukrainian friends. And we had this debate. And they said there was a huge offensive coming in August. There'll be 1 million people army. We're going to take the land back. And this was months ago. And I said, I'm sorry, guys, there won't be. I said it flat out. I'm like, there's not going to be this offensive. There will be more red in August than when we had this discussion. It was back in like July or something. I don't know. Not July. Might have been in May. It was a while ago. And look, I hate to break you the bad news, but if you don't go to the negotiating table now, you're going to go to the negotiating table later when you have less land. They were very upset at my views, and my views were very, I'm looking at the map. I'm looking at the map. And again, this map favors Ukraine. And I said, there's not going to be any offensive. They're not going to take back this territory. Everything that goes red will not go white unless Russia gives it back to them, which is unlikely. And here we are. August is coming to an end. I haven't seen any offensive on a week-to-week basis. A little bit of red goes white, and then when the month ends, There's a lot more red than there was white in the beginning of that month. It's like the red goes 3 steps forward, 1 step back. I mean, that's just reality. And the longer people deny this reality, the more people die and the harder it is to reconcile. I mean, Ukraine still has a chance to save Odessa from being Russia, but that chance is slowly evaporating. I will agree that the amount of red is actually moving a little bit slower than I anticipated initially, but it's still increasing. So the speed with which Russia is taking over Ukraine is probably less than I expected a few months ago. So it's definitely moving slow, but it's still moving in the direction I anticipated it to move. No, because it's not exactly the same a month ago. Because I remember talking about Lysychansk for a long time, for months, and now all of that is red. And this was a big conflict. And I also clearly remember the border was only this red line. And Ukrainians were right on the edge of this border, shelling the nets. And now, and as I've stated on this channel, I don't know if you were watching me months ago, I said the moment Lysychansk falls, Russia is going to move so many troops over here to prevent the shelling of the nets. And that's exactly what's happened. You can see how the red has now moved past this red line. And by the end of the month, I expect this to have a lot more red to provide a bigger buffer zone. And you can also see how right now there is no shelling of the nets. At least today there is. This is a fire, but because it's a fire symbol, it is unknown whether this was caused by, a missile attack from the area of white or not. And once again, because this is a Ukraine-leaning map, the red border could actually be like way bigger. Like the buffer zone could be bigger. Where a few months ago, you're looking at this map and all you see is like these shellings over here. So obviously the Russians aren't bombing it, right? They already have this area covered. So the bombing was coming from here. But now you see all these bombings are happening on this side and there's no bombings here. And that's because once this area was taken, once this big conflict was resolved in Russia's favor, lots of, more attention could be put on this border here. So no, the map is not exactly the same as a month ago or 2 months ago. The map is clearly increasing the amount of red territory and the white territory is decreasing. All right, guys. On this note, I am going to get going. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all